Hello, and thank you for joining us again at Voice of Rohingya Radio. We are a registered nonprofit coming to you from the state of Oregon in the United States of America. I would like to take some time to thank all of our listeners who allow this program to continue providing the latest news through our exclusive interviews, reports from inside the border, and reputable sources from around the world. If you would like to stay up to date with our program, you can find all of our broadcasts online at youtube.com/VORradio, or you can join our Facebook page to find information on past and future programs. It is May 4th, 2014. For Voice of Rohingya Radio, I am your host, Zach Taylor. Our top story tonight comes after United States President Barack Obama's visit to Malaysia last Sunday, where, as World Bulletin reported, he said that the rights of Myanmar's minority Muslim population were not fully being protected and warned that the Southeast Asian country would not succeed if minorities were tyrannized. Though Obama praised political reforms underway in once isolated Myanmar, he maintained that the danger of democratization was that it could unleash religious and ethnic conflicts and that such developments could move Myanmar in a bad direction. Obama spoke about Myanmar's persecuted minorities at a meeting of young leaders from throughout Southeast Asia, saying, quote, "You have a Muslim minority that the broader population has historically looked down upon and whose rights are not fully being protected, and Myanmar will not succeed if the Muslim population is oppressed." We now turn our attention to the issue of human trafficking as the Obama administration moves to finalize its annual Trafficking in Persons, or TIP, report. U.S. lawmakers called on the Obama administration on Tuesday to punish countries that do little to fight human trafficking, including Thailand and Malaysia, and said Myanmar should not receive a waiver to avoid possible sanctions over its record. Rohingya are leaving Burma by the thousands to escape religious persecution, said U.S. Representative Chris Smith at a House of Representatives subcommittee hearing on tier rankings and the U.S. State Department's annual TIP report, citing a Reuters investigation to the treatment of Rohingya Muslims. In the report, Tier 1 countries are those who meet anti-trafficking standards. Tier 2 do not, but are making a significant effort to do so. Tier 3 countries do not meet the standards and are not making significant efforts to do so and are open to sanctions by the U.S. government. Thai authorities are selling Rohingya to human traffickers where they are held in tropical gulags until relatives pay ransom, Smith said, adding that those who do not pay are sold into sex slavery or hard labor, and many die from abuse or disease. Bangkok Post reported on the meeting where Dr. Bakari, the Director General of the Arakan Rohingya Union and a professor at Pennsylvania State University, testified at the hearing that eyewitness accounts said some Rohingya women and minors were sold to sex trades in southern Thailand. Mr. Udin added that several hundred Rohingya refugees are currently held captive by the shadowy gangs that have turned southern Thailand into a human trafficking superhighway, and that the reports also agree that Thai officials collaborate with the traffickers by transferring Rohingya held in Thailand to the custody of trafficking cartel. Thai officials reportedly adopted a secret policy known as Option 2 to expel Rohingya refugees using the smuggling cartels from Thailand. For more information on the U.S. House Subcommittee on Africa, Global Health, Global Human Rights, and International Organizations, we talked to Dr. Bakari, who was present at the hearing in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday. Dr. Udin, could you tell me a little bit about your work with the Arakan Rohingya Union?
Actually, Arakan Rohingya Union is an umbrella organization representing over 60 different Rohingya organizations throughout the world globally. And we have our objectives. It's an NGO, non-governmental organization. It has various missions, various objectives, and if I specifically I'll mention that objectives, it will be number one objective will be first reclaiming our rights, the rights of Rohingya people, citizenship, all the basic human rights that we had. It was taken away from the Rohingya people in 1962 after General Ne Win came to power.
Could you please describe your testimony at the U.S. House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee hearing on Tuesday? What do Rohingyas face when trying to escape the persecution in Myanmar?
They want to escape Arakan state because of this situation. And so they are smuggling ring where cartels are taking them to better place, they said, in a trap, falling into trap basically. So they are sailing to Malaysia. That has not entered at trafficking phase yet. There are two phases, smuggling and then trafficking. So they are smuggled. The Burmese local forces, corrupt forces, are helping the cartels transport these victims to their boats, from shore to the boats. The Rakhine RNDP politicians, local officials, and Burmese local administration, township officials, they are all involved in this. First thing is they are corrupt. They are getting money from the cartels. Second thing is that they want to get rid of this the Rohingya families, Rohingya people from Arakan state, to reduce the population. This is one of the several strategies they have for population reduction in Arakan state. So they are shipping them to larger vessels, waiting out in the sea. From there, they are heading south to Malaysia. What happened is I explained to them the fate of these, I call refugees at that time. They are being smuggled. Fate of them. They often do not have enough food, enough water, and enough fuel even, with very poor navigation. So they sail for a few days and they're out of water, they're out of food. I was told by the victims, Rohingya victims who have come to Washington a couple of weeks ago to tell their stories, their horror, their arduous journey to Malaysia. And they said they had to drink salt water. People, elderly, young children are dying on the boat. They have to bury them in the sea. So they have to drift. They don't have fuel. Often they don't have fuel. You know, the one of the most horrible things in my report, written report, I indicated to the congressman that these Rakhine cartels, smuggling Rohingya, they often sink the boat with several hundred refugees in it. They often push them from the boat and kill them in the middle, and they are drowned in the middle of the sea. So I explained to the congressman, the committee, and details how the Thai police will work with the cartels to ship the victims to the forced labor camps, sex slaves, and so on and so forth, child laborers. The Thai officials reportedly have separated women from men, saying that, look, you need protection. They separated from men in the prison, and then they were shipped to camps for sex slavery. So my point to the congressman, to the committee, my appeal was, please don't look at this. Clipping the top of the tree will not cause the issue. You have to go to the roots of that problem. Roots, there's human trafficking tree. Don't cut the branches. There'll be more growth of branches. There'll be more shoots coming off. You cut one shoot, one branch, there will be several shoots coming out. So you have to go to the root and cut the roots. Root cause. Root cause is, what is the root cause? Root cause is the situation on the ground in Arakan state.
Now, for audience members of us that are Rohingya, did you have any closing sentiments you wanted to offer, maybe words of hope perhaps, or a direction you'd like to see them go in to help the cause?
Yeah, my message to Rohingya people in Burma, in Arakan state and in central Burma is the first thing they need to do is speak in one voice. Speak in one voice. They have one simple goal, one single goal, that objective that they have to pursue. Once we have unity, we have unity now, but we need to consolidate that unity in our people. I was very encouraged to hear news from the ground that people are united to solve the issue, united to address the issue, not something else. So that's very important. And we here in the international community, in diaspora, Rohingya people all around the world, ARU representing Rohingya community around the world is not going to be running for election in Burma, and we don't have activities inside Burma. We do not want to be there to interfere in the political process in Burma. We want to lend the support to our leaders inside Burma, our activists, and the political parties. We lend the support so that they can move forward. So I want to make sure that all of us around the world, Rohingya people, provide support to our folks inside Burma. We are working very hard. As you know, it is not a secret that the Rohingya issue, solving the Rohingya issue, relies much in Washington, D.C. American government can do much more than any other country in the world. The most serious issue right now is survival, health, and survival of IDP, folks in IDP camps and Rohingya villages. They need to survive, they need to sustain their lives. So that's an immediate need, the urgent need to resolve that issue, get them medicine, get them food, get them clean water, have the situation stabilized, and then eventually, with the help of Burmese government, international community, working strongly with even more greater leadership, return of these IDPs to their homes in Chao Phu, Chao To, Pao To, Situe, various villages, Miu Hao. So all this, their original home, they need to go back.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
It's my pleasure.
Once again, that was the Director General of the Arakan Rohingya Union, Dr. Bakari. I am your host, Zach Taylor. You are listening to Voice of Rohingya Radio. Thanks again for listening to Voice of Rohingya Radio, a registered non-profit news program coming to you from the state of Oregon in the United States of America. I am your host, Zach Taylor. Now for news from around the world, as the Karen News Organization reported Thursday that the UN Secretary General states that impunity by Burma's authorities regarding human rights violations could risk serious international consequences. In an April 25th speech to the Partnership Group on Burma in New York, the UN Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, said that if Burma's authorities tolerated impunity for human rights violations, it risked negative pressures from within the international community and among different parts of Myanmar's population. Given that the UN has already warned that violations against the Rohingya may violate international law, and there is ample evidence that the policies that lead to these violations come from the very top of government, it is unlikely any voluntary action will be taken to end impunity, Anna Roberts, Executive Director of Burma Campaign UK, said. Ms. Roberts called for an international investigation into human rights abuses in Burma. The Secretary General should establish his own international inquiry as a practical step towards ending impunity, she added. In an article published Thursday, the Associated Press reported that the top UN envoy on Myanmar said that the most pressing priority for Muslims in violence-torn Rakhine State who are considered illegal immigrants is to get on the path to citizenship. Mr. Nambiar, the Secretary General's special advisor on Myanmar, said, quote, "The utmost necessity now for the Muslim community in Rakhine is to have their status verified and regularized, and to obtain a national registration card from the government and then citizenship, which would enable the Rohingyas to travel throughout the country and get passports to go abroad." Nambiar said there are many elements in the Muslim community in Rakhine who are willing to go incrementally in this direction. He added, "I think that it's a better way towards realizing immediate objectives, and then gradually move towards using that status to establish a political constituency, and that's what would happen in any democratic process." Nambiar said of the Myanmar government's level of involvement on the situation, "Whether or not it will actually step up is the real issue, and upon that I think will depend on the credibility of the government as it proceeds." The New York Times reported on the worsening medical conditions of those in IDP camps, which it compared to sprawling prisons on Friday. Listeners will recall the crisis began with the Myanmar government's expulsion of Doctors Without Borders, one of the world's premier humanitarian aid groups and the lifeline to healthcare for more than 1 million Rohingya. The Times reports that the situation has grown more dire in recent weeks as local Buddhist officials began severely restricting other humanitarian aid to the camps and the rest of Rakhine State, where tuberculosis, waterborne illness, and malnutrition are endemic. Aid workers fear they are being kept away so there are fewer witnesses to rampant mistreatment and occasional bloodletting. The doctors group was expelled from Rakhine State after caring for victims of a violent assault on a Rohingya village that the government denies ever happened. Finally today, the Vice President of Myanmar has called for a roadmap acceptable to both communities in the conflict-hit western Rakhine State, warning that the Rakhine issue is not a matter for the state alone, but a problem that can hinder the nation's future in relation with the international community, state media reported on Tuesday. He stressed the importance of aid from UN agencies and international organizations, as the government's support is not enough to tackle basic needs and social matters of the victims of communities comprising of hundreds of thousands of people. Meanwhile, a 5-day ethnic Rakhine National Conference kicked off over the weekend to seek a solution to issues including communal conflicts and violence challenging the state. I'd like to thank you again for tuning in to Voice of Rohingya Radio. As always, you can find our broadcasts at youtube.com/VORradio, and you can join our Facebook page for more information on past and future programs. I close today with words from my favorite author, James Joyce, who wrote, "I am tomorrow or some future day what I established today, and I am today what I established yesterday or some previous day." This kind of thought process can be dangerous, but many feel that change is nothing more than a loop of the past propagating the path of our future. Instead of Joyce's words, perhaps we can establish something new and hopeful today that's not relegated to the pain of yesterday or some other day. For Voice of Rohingya Radio, I am Zach Taylor, signing out.